Welcome back to the Blog Boy Roundtable presented by the Bay Area Examiner. And this week, I am thankful to be joined by Robert Steeg, Nathan Bond of the Bay Area Examiner, and Nick Simon of DraftKings Network. Well, we had a pretty good week last week. Nobody had a losing week. Nick, and I went 2-2. Vito and Steeg both went 3-1. We've got a pretty tight race here for the cup or whatever we're giving out. It's and you know, I think the one thing we can all agree on is that Lance Leipold is pretty good. Pretty good coach. Or the third string quarterback probably should have won the game. It's from what
didn't account. I did not account for the Lance Leipold of it all. You hear third string quarterback. There's blood in the water, and it did not turn out to be the case.
Yeah, when it certainly seems like he was like a freshman walk-on is what I read somewhere. I was like, oh, perfect. Kansas State defense coming to town. Didn't matter.
Most underrated coach in America. Like he's done like an amazing job at Kansas. I mean, of course, it sucks that this is the second year in a row that they've had quarterback injury problems, but man, he's done like what he's done, just simply getting Kansas to back-to-back bowl games or whatever. Just that's yeoman's work.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and that game was unbelievable. I thought they were going to get waxed, and like I said, they probably should have won. And then this is something we forgot to include when we recorded Colin's Sports Betting Explainer. Sometimes when it looks too easy, it is too easy. Georgia was a 10.5 point favorite. How did that happen? Like, that was a beatdown basically from the second drive of the game on. Tennessee scored early, but like they had nothing for Georgia. And I can't believe they're still in the top 25.
Unfortunately, it seems like Joe Milton is not that guy.
He is not. And I think there were some people who say, hey, why don't you put Nico out there? Pump the brakes on Nico against Georgia. Like, let Joe Milton go to the Dogs. Good luck. You can bust Nico out against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Vanderbilt, let him play in the bowl game and get loose. And so being the guy in between the guys, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and Georgia's offense looks pretty lathered up for the stretch run here, so that's not fun for anybody. And then Steeg, for the first time in your life, Beaver let you down.
The Beaver
Oregon State couldn't pull it out at home against Washington. But it was kind of exactly what we thought. It was a pretty tight game and came down to the wire.
I wasn't I looked at the forecast and saw it was going to be nice and wet, and then I forgot that Pacific Northwest nice and wet is like torrential downpour for like 27 inches of rain just coming down. I tuned into the game about midway through, and I heard about the rain, and my television wasn't picking it up. And then they showed another angle, and I was like, oh my God, it is like deathly pouring there, like absolutely miserably cold. And I mean, they kept on talking about Michael Penix's hands for about 13 minutes of the second quarter. They were like, he has no problem gripping the ball. He's got 13-inch hands, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, this is too much. We cannot be talking about the Penix size at this point of this juncture.
So Penix's 13-inch hands can handle wet Beaver, is what we're getting.
Oh yeah, that's all I learned.
Good for him.
All day long. All right, so off the board, Steeg, you picked Mississippi State to cover 14 points. They did. They got the old dead cat bounce. Nick, UNLV +3 was a great pick. They are having an unbelievable season this year, aren't they?
They're going to host the Mountain West Championship. I think they have the inside track of hosting the Mountain West Championship. Barry Odom, to me, he should be National Coach of the Year. Being able to turn UNLV around that quickly is just that's insane. That is insane. That's an incredible job that he's done this year.
Is Petrino getting hired away and being able to hire Brendan Marion? Is that like the next version of like the Garth Brooks "Unanswered Prayers" song? Like that seems like a big upgrade.
That's an interesting sliding doors thing. Like, what if? Huh? Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, what if Petrino stays, and then who does Jimbo hire? Does he upgrade?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like that was in the cards. But yeah, looking at UNLV's schedule, man, they lost by a touchdown at Fresno State and then lost to Michigan 35-7. So not like brutal early in the year. So if they were able to beat Fresno, they'd probably be one of the teams in line for that New Year's Six game, which would be, like you said, a wild turnaround. And Vito went sicko with Iowa, Illinois under 30.5, and it cashed. More from one of those teams later, I think. And then Nathan and I both missed. I had Michigan minus 19. I thought it was in hand when Michigan was driving down the field, going in to score to go up 20 at halftime. I was like, too easy. Then Carter threw a pick, and the game got a little wild from there. And then Missouri. Really, Florida screwed you twice this week, Nathan. They could have won outright and helped both of us cash our over 5.5 win total, or they could have lost in spectacular fashion and at least let you win that Missouri game. But they basically screwed you 2 times this week.
Yeah, and you know what? That's okay because I actually had money. I had a 14 parlay on just teams to win, and that cashed for like $14. So I was sweating out the last half of that game, and the chaotic of that last second, I was very worried. But shout out, what's the backup's name? Max Brown.
Yeah,
looked great after that fumble. Looked fantastic, very mobile.
We got the backup bowl coming.
Yeah, we'll get into what he may be able to do this week, but man, that was impressive.
Yeah, not a lot of panic besides fumbling a play action fake, but at least it didn't cost him the game. All right, we'll move on to this week. You got Oregon State at Oregon as we're going to open. We talked about Oregon State a little bit last week. Oregon is currently a 13.5 point favorite at home. The total is at 62. We've got 3 great rivalry games here. Like ones that are classics every year. Even though I did read that Oregon had finished in a scoreless tie 5 times previously. I saw a video from one of them today where there was like 12 fumbles. That was back in the day. But this should be a really good game, you think? But Oregon's been playing so well; they're a 13.5 point favorite. Nick, what are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I'm staying away from the line. I'm going to go with the over for this one because this should just be a straight up fun game to watch. Oregon's been a death machine a lot of parts of the year. Bo Nix, I think the Heisman is coming down between Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels at this point, and he threw 6 touchdowns last week. And that's not even his first 6 touchdown game of the season. He's been incredible. Oregon has been incredible. Like we just mentioned, it was a tough break for Oregon State. They had the ball late. They had a chance to pull ahead and just couldn't seal the deal there. But with this game in particular, 2 fun offenses, two offenses that have like a really fun quarterback running back dynamic. Everyone talks about Bo Nix, but Bucky Irving for Oregon has also been that dude. He's been incredible. And then on the flip side with Oregon State, DJ Uiagalelei, he's had a pretty good bounce back season, like thriving in a new environment in Oregon State. And then Damian Martinez leads the Pac-12 in rushing. He's been fantastic. Like some of the runs that he was breaking off against Washington were incredible. So again, this should be a fun game. And like I said, I have the over going here.
Yeah, you've got 2 really good offenses based on kind of every metric. Nathan, where are you leaning in this one?
So Oregon State had a chance to do the thing everybody wanted them to do last week. Last FU out the door to Washington, couldn't get the job done, but they're still really good. They're still really talented. I love this Oregon team. but I'm going to ride with the Beavers here just out of just sheer spite for being left out in the cold. That's really the only analysis I have. It's just like, this is just a spite. I don't even think they win the game, but I think they can cover 13.5. That's a lot of points. And Oregon State's still pretty good. I mean, they're a very well coached team, and they've got a talented quarterback. They can cover that, but just out of sheer spite.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm going to go with Oregon State as well. Really well coached team, physical team. Maybe can keep it close, running the ball. Now, I think this is one that if you do see Oregon cover, it's kind of like, oh, they're like for real, because this is a good Oregon State team. If you go in, even with the game at home, beat a rival by 2 touchdowns or more, I mean, this is a legit. I think we already feel like they're a pretty good team, but this kind of puts them as being one of the best. Steeg, last pick on the game. Which way are you leaning here?
I'm leaning for the Ducks. I don't know. They're hot right now, man. Like that Washington game aside, it just seems like Dan Lanning is able to convey the proper message to this team to block out the noise, block out what's going on. Obviously, big rivalry game weeks, you typically have to throw out every preconceived notion that you have coming into that game. But man, they're rolling right now. Like Georgia and Oregon are just 2 teams that are just on a tear right now, and that's terrifying to think about. Another kind of like high profile offense meets just unstoppable force defense in a college football playoff. But that's what I think it's kind of gearing towards right now. I mean, Bo Nix is Nix right now. Like this is the Bo Nix that we thought we would see at Auburn. And now he's just performing at a whole new level with a whole just supporting cast around him. That's just, they're having fun. I think that's the big difference, is that they're having fun. Like Oregon State's playing with like a chip on the shoulder and everything. Totally get the rivalry and totally get, the departure and the spite and everything like that. But like Oregon's having fun. And when Oregon's having fun, they kill teams. And that's scary to think about.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you go back and look like the last 10 years. Now, obviously, Jonathan Smith's done a really good job at Oregon State, and they're a lot better than they were kind of in the first half of those 10 years. But if you look at the last 10 years, Oregon covers 14 half the time. So that's a little scary, but, as of recently, the last 3, 2020, Oregon State 41-38. Last time it was in Eugene, it was 38-29 Oregon. Then last year, obviously, Oregon State won 38-34. So last 3 have been close-ish or inside this number. So, but yeah, I think this is one where if you see Oregon go out and cover, you got to be really impressed and think that they've got a chance to kind of make some noise in the playoff, actually. Speaking of the playoff, we've got, a couple teams that were both in it last year, and basically winners probably in because you got to play Iowa, I think, in the championship. So, barring an unfortunate circumstances, we've got Ohio State at Michigan. Michigan is a 3.5-point favorite. The total is 46.5. I'm gonna just ride with Michigan. They're the home team. I don't feel great about it. I would feel a lot better about it if their head coach was on the sideline. Last couple weeks have been a little bit weird, but the game before Ohio State is kind of on both sides. The game before this one is, typically a letdown. I thought the craziness going around would not be. I fell into that trap last week. But Penn State, that game never felt like they were in danger at all. And Ohio State, Penn State was pretty competitive at Ohio State. So I'm going to go with Michigan. I think they're the better team, but it really comes down to, have they just been beaten up on a really soft schedule? Steeg, what do you think on this one?
I think they've been beating up on a soft schedule.
It's quite possible. It's really hard to say just because I think their defense, Penn State's offense is so bad, you can't really tell a ton from that game, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, this isn't, again, rivalry week, throwing all the preconceived notions. These games are just one-offs at this point, really. And I don't know. Part of me just feels like the distractions are going to come into play a little bit for Michigan. It just kind of feels like a game where they might lose sight for a second. And the second that they lose sight, that's when I think Ohio State can maximize the bitterness that they so hold true for the old Maize and Blues. So I take Ohio State here. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a game here. There's always one guy in one of these games that just takes it over. I think it's going to be him. Have fun.
Let's go. Nick, do you think Marvin Harrison has an extremely outside shot at the Heisman if he goes insane in this game, or is it totally out, do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, like the Heisman has just become like the best quarterback on a national championship winning team award. He's definitely going to New York for the ceremony, like no doubt. But I don't think like unless he has like a 300 receiving yard game here, like and in the Big Ten championship next week, or I don't think he actually wins the Heisman. Man, this game it's tough. It's tough picking this game, man. Like, man, it's an irresistible force, a movable object sort of deal.
How much does Harbaugh being out change your mind? Would that have swayed it anyways, or do you think it's just tough?
I don't think that like it's gonna really affect because they're at home and again they're already in like super us versus the world mode and they're gonna be they were already gonna be juiced up. I mean, it's the game, but like the last couple of weeks, this is like a circle the wagons moment. Man, I have Ohio State covering, but I have Michigan winning. I think it's gonna be like a really like razor thin, tight, like 1 point type of ball game here because you just have you have two decent quarterbacks who are both capable of making like throws when it matters, like when they absolutely need a play, like both JJ McCarthy and Kyle McCord can get you that play. Michigan has Blake Corum, incredible, insane running back. Obviously, Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr., Travion Henderson, who's healthy now, and he just ripped up Minnesota for like 150 yards on Saturday. Both incredible defenses. Like, man, again, like I'm just going to default and say Ohio State covers, Michigan wins. We get like a game that comes down to literally the final drive and whether or not a team can get a stop. It's going to be a sight to watch. This is also a game that Ryan Day absolutely needs to win. He absolutely needs to win, or Ohio State fans are going to storm those football facilities in Columbus if he loses a third straight game to Michigan.
Yeah, he loses this one. I think Ryan Day, head coach of Florida, becomes a reality in a couple years, possibly. Nathan, where are you going? In my mind, when I watched that Ohio State Penn State game a month back, I'm like, oh, okay, Michigan's beaten both these teams, and I've basically just stuck with that. What are your thoughts here? It seems like it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I think it like the Ohio State Penn State game, right? It's Penn State basically Penn State against Ohio State and Michigan was you got to prove it to me before I'll actually trust you. And for Ryan Day at this point, it's you know what? If I get burned by this pick, so be it. But you got to prove to me that you are competent enough to beat this very talented Michigan team, even without their head coach. It's still a very, very talented team, and the coaching staff, it's clear it's not their first rodeo without their head coach this season already. So it's kind of old hat at this point. Michigan minus 3.5 all day.
What old Michigan coach is Ryan Day calling out after this game? Rich Rod, Lloyd Carr, Brady Hoke? Probably Lloyd Carr, right?
Yeah, probably.
That's the Lou Holtz. Pretty similar.
Did Bo coach there?
Yeah, but he's dead, so it might be tougher to call him out.
I mean, so is Lou Holtz, basically. So
Yeah. He's still talking, so.
Well, I guess you can never kill the devil, so there's that.
All right, so we've got Florida State, the number 4 team in the country, I believe, still. Obviously, terrible injury to their starting quarterback. Or else this thing's probably closer to 2 touchdowns. Florida State is a 6.5-point favorite on the road at Florida. The total is at 50. We got, Florida probably thought that they might have been catching a break, and then their quarterback goes and gets hurt in the game, and now we've got the backup bowl at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. So, Steeg, where are you going in the backup bowl?
Oh man, all the air out of this game got pretty much deflated out with 2 backups playing against each other. I feel like both teams are just going to ride the excuse train, straight to cash town on this one with, our backup was playing kind of thing. Which makes this game a lot more difficult to pick because you're basically just, roll the dice at this. Like either backup quarterback is susceptible to make just a litany of errors. Tate obviously has a little bit more time experience under his belt. Max Brown, I think, is a redshirt freshman.
Yeah,
he's a sophomore.
Second year on campus, a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, so still a young guy. And I watched the Florida State game after Jordan Travis went down, and Tate. I mean, they were rallying behind him, but Tate didn't look like he had a good control of the offense. Obviously, it's a completely different offense when you go from Jordan Travis's elusiveness to Tate, who can kind of be a little bit more hesitant to run the ball. Former USF commit was really looking to, air it out in the running gun. Shout out to that. So I'm going to take Florida here. Upset Central, they would love nothing more to spoil their rivals' college playoff hopes, which I think would happen anyways, to be frank. But I'll take the Gators here begrudgingly. I hate this. It's like picking getting your tooth pulled and getting a toenail removed at this point.
Yeah, this is an interesting game in terms of motivation, I think. First of all, Florida has to get this game to make now they might be able to make it on APR, but that's not – if you're Billy Napier, you do not want to be making a bowl game just because you're graduating a lot of people, right? So important for that, for Florida. And then on the other side of it, for Florida State, do we think that is like a dream crusher, or is that something that you can rally behind? Because – you were probably going to be a pretty big underdog if you made the playoffs anyways. Now without Travis, it feels really tough to kind of compete if you get there. Do you guys think this is going to be kind of a thing to rally behind, or maybe like a dream crusher?
It feels like a dream crusher.
Yeah, I have rallied behind this Florida State team. Like, they have been my pick all season long. Jordan Travis is my dark horse Heisman candidate prior to the season. You lose your starting quarterback in that fashion, a guy who literally did everything for you. And like Graham Mertz, great. He's competent enough to, move the ball, but like Jordan Travis is a star in college football. It's tough to come back from this sort of injury. And Tate Rodemaker's is just, I think the lights are going to be a little too bright for him at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, man. It sucks. It sucks that I'm doing this, but I'm with Steeg, plus 6.5. I feel gross. I feel disgusting. This is a terrible Florida team that I'm hitching my wagon to.
I was going to say, if it's any consolation, Florida's terrible on defense. So
right, and that's what Florida State's hope. And they can still run the ball, and you still have really talented wide receivers. You can, if Tommy DeVito can throw 3 touchdowns in an NFL game while getting sacked 9 times, why can't Tate Rodemaker throw a few tutties against a really bad Gators defense?
That is true. Here's my other question. And anybody chime in here, right? What is Florida State kind of known for in roster construction right now? They're really good at what?
not having depth at quarterback.
Transfer portal, right?
Oh,
They're
right,
the king of
yeah.
the transfer portal. Do these players care about this game as much as past teams? Like, does Keon Coleman care about Florida State? He's from Louisiana.
I mean, they probably know it's a big game,
it's
and they probably.
ingrained.
You think it's part? I mean, they do have coaches on staff that played there. I'm sure there's no I'm sure Odo Higgins is not like we love him. I don't think you're allowed to say Gatorade or anything like that in his presence. So
yeah, they definitely instill the hate still, but it's like
that's kind of
right.
I guess a question for kind of all of these where you're seeing so many guys transfer kind of in the middle of their career. Like, is some of the hate out? I would guess probably not. But
it's a sort of, I think Steve just said it, like it's a sort of deal where once you get into the program, you'll gradually pick up on, the different cues, and like you'll have former players come in and coaching staff like telling stories about this game, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can get juiced up for this, even though I'm not from the state of Florida. So yeah, I don't think they'll have a problem getting up for this game.
It's like a reality TV show that your wife's watched like 4 seasons, and you jump in like season 5, and she's like, all right, we hate this person and this person. And you're like, all right, whatever. Then like 6 episodes in, you're like, I hate them too. So I think that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Just in terms of motivation, I think Florida really needs this. So I'm going to take Florida, and really because it's at home and you're almost getting a touchdown. I could very well see Florida State just rolling them, though. It's in the cards there. I would not be shocked, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Florida won outright. It's kind of with Travis going down, I think the variance just became super wide because I don't know how good Florida State's defense is. I heard Bud Elliott say today they played like 4 or 5 backup quarterbacks in a row. So I don't know. Florida ran the ball on them pretty well last year, and they're starting to run the ball a little bit better this year. So we'll see. That might be their plan, run the ball, shrink the game a little bit. But who knows? Nick, where are you going in this one? This used to be – I do want to say this is a great aesthetic game. Florida State, just the look of it. The look of it you enjoy. The Florida State's helmets against Florida's helmets. Screams 90s to me.
Yeah, it's a great helmet on helmet, uniform on uniform matchup. Ye have little faith. I have Florida State easy. I have Florida State rolling here.
I think it's very.
This Florida team is ass. This team is going to miss a bowl game for a reason, and I don't care if Jordan Travis isn't playing in this game. Like Rodemaker, of course, is former USF commit. Take Rodemaker. Obviously isn't as talented as Jordan Travis, but he looked fine against North Alabama. He, again, touched on it before. This is what his 3rd year at Florida State. So at least his 3rd year at Florida State. So, yeah. So kind of so he's still somewhat of a veteran presence, even though he hasn't played as much as Travis. He's been sitting behind. But yeah, man, one team has Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Trey Benson. The other team doesn't. The other team is spiraling. Okay, like Billy Napier is not going to get fired this year, but like things are not great in Gainesville with that roster right now.
Nick, they just pushed the number 9 team in the country on the road. They're peaking at the right time. They've lost 4 in a row actually. So I do think that is a Florida State just beat down is possible. I think it's in the cards, but I just think Florida needs it so bad that maybe they put together their best game and it's at home. But I do think your side is probably – I think it's very likely that you could see like a 15, 20-point win from Florida State. So especially if their defense is as good as the numbers say. That's what the kind of big question is. So, all right, we're going off the board. And so you know what? I'm a positive guy. I don't like to be negative. Like Vito, who couldn't make it tonight. But last week, Vito took under 30.5 in Iowa, Illinois. I'm about positivity. I'm actually going to take Iowa, Nebraska over 26.5. It's at Nebraska. I almost picked Nebraska to win outright, but Iowa's got some kind of voodoo magic where they just win every Big Ten West game somehow. But Nebraska, what do they like to do? They like to turn the ball over a lot. So maybe you get some short fields, lead some more points. So give me the over in Iowa, Nebraska. Ugh, that doesn't feel great. All right, Nathan, where do you want to go here off the board?
All right, so I've got one, and then I have one adjacent to this game as well. Navy at SMU, the line is minus 20.5. I think SMU is really talented. I think Navy is not talented at all. So therefore, I am picking SMU minus 20.5. That's a big line. It's a very big line for these two teams. And I'm a little scared about it. But I think this SMU team is really fun, and their offense is fun, and Navy is just bad. Full stop. I think Navy under 4.5, under 5.5. I think was the line at the start of the year. Cash. I'm pretty sure that's going to cash. But for all of you other degenerates who don't like the spread, the over/under is 47.5. 45.5. These games get pointsy, and they get pointsy as hell between these two teams. Last year, 40-34. I'm just gonna read some off to illustrate how pointsy these games get. 40-34, 31-24, 51-37, 35-28, 31-30, 43-40, 75-31, 55-14. And then 2011 was the last time that game was under 41 points at a 24-17 outcome for Navy. It's the juxtaposition of two different offenses. Navy has to speed up to kind of keep up, and it gets pointsy. So that's also an alternate line, you could say, picking the over. I'm actually, when we're done here, I am actually going to bet the over.
Oh, well, look at that. All right, Nick, off the board. Where are you going?
Hold on, make sure I have this one right. Double check. Okay, I'm gonna go Boston College plus 8.5 against Miami. Just the principal fade market crystal ball. Boston. Shout out to Boston College. It was looking dicey for Jeff Hafley at the beginning of the year. Bowl eligible Boston College now. Yeah, I just don't trust the Miami team at all. Like I haven't since that Georgia Tech game. Talked about it. We called it. We talked about it. We called it. Like that game was going to tank their season. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think Boston College at least makes this one close.
Hold on, I just looked at this. Boston College at noon on Friday.
It's gross. Just absolutely gross.
Ed Reed is not there to save you this time. All right. Steeg, you're off the board. Pick and then maybe throw a couple rapid fire other rivalry games at you guys, but not for the records. Steeg, where do you like to go off the board here?
I'm going to stick in the Pac-12 with this one. And I'm going to give my justification on it. Utah, Colorado currently has Utah favored by 21.5. And I feel like that's not enough. Really honestly and truthfully, I think because of how, and I'll say it because of the way that Deion Sanders came out the first 3 games of the year and all the preseason and everything talking about that, just put the biggest target on his back. And you can see it week in, week out whenever Colorado plays anyone. I mean, they're getting everyone's best shot, and it's a 4-7 football team. It's unfortunate because it all culminated into Shedeur Sanders getting injured and just a very porous game against Washington State. It was also very bad. Washington State's offense is at least a little more potent than I think Utah's, but I just think because this Colorado offense is just stagnant. I mean, it is crawling. Shedeur Sanders day to day, I don't think they're going to risk it frankly, I think they're going to shut him down and just, new offensive line coming in next year. I mean, when he went out, the offense just looked so much worse than I thought it could ever look. And so I think this is also going to be a game where Utah's like, hey, talk, get hit. I'm not going to curse. I'm not going to curse anymore on Seth's show. Talk crap, get hit here, buddy. Like, they're going to run up the score on this. Utah needs a big win. They've been getting their butts handed to them the last 2 weeks. They're looking for a get-right game. Hey, you got a really down that likes to talk coming into the Valley. So here's a chance. Give me Utah by like 40 at this rate.
See? I love it. I'm very upset I did not see that. I think that's an excellent pick.
I love whenever I see a game that has just like an absurd spread. And I'm like, give me one team getting blown out.
If the guy that was playing quarterback at the end of that Washington State game is playing for Colorado, they're not scoring a point. So
no.
Can Utah score 4 touchdowns? I think they can. I like it a lot, Steeg. All right, we'll look at a few other rivalries that are another couple interesting games. I'm just going to throw them at you guys real quick. Tell me what you think. Ole Miss on the road at Mississippi State. Ole Miss is an 11-point favorite. What do we think is going to happen in the Egg Bowl? Is Ole Miss going to win by double digits, or is it going to be crazy?
Double digits.
What do you think, Nick? Is it going to be weird Egg Bowl stuff, or is Mississippi State just cooked?
Yeah, I think Mississippi State is going to call it. Like, this is – Egg Bowl is usually wacky, and I don't think it's going to be this year. I think this year is chalky. Ole Miss just has more talent, and they're more dialed in.
Yeah, I think I kind of lean that way. Steeg, any lean in the Egg Bowl?
No,
what's your favorite Egg Bowl moment? Favorite Egg Bowl moment? The guy peeing like a dog.
I mean, it has to be the guy peeing. Like, that is just classic comedy. Just fake pissing on the turf and then missing the extra point. Like, you couldn't write something better than that. Flip a coin. That's who I pick in this game. I mean, like, yeah, I got nothing.
Another coin flip game. You got UTSA at Tulane. Winner probably plays SMU for the conference championship. Tulane's obviously the defending champ. Does UTSA have a chance to go in there and win this thing? They're a 3-point underdog right now, but it's at Tulane.
Yeah,
Tulane's been kind of screwing around all year. Like,
yeah, they're not beating teams. Like, they're good. Don't get me wrong, and they're winning games, which is the part. But like, they're not like they're definitely the team that won the conference championship the year after in the American Athletic Conference. That every single time they win, but they're not winning convincingly. So I'm picking UTSA here. Frank Harris, I mean, saw him firsthand and up close up against a really bad defense, and he was able to command it how he wanted to. So,
what do you got? What do you, Nick and Nate? What do you guys think? Do you think Tulane just kind of keeps riding out, or will it their kind of play this year come back to bite them?
I'm gonna ride with Michael Pratt, and I don't feel great about it. Like, these are two very talented quarterbacks going up against each other. I think I trust Tulane's defense a little bit more than UTSA's. So,
yeah, I'm the same way. I'm defaulting to Tulane just at home. Like you said, they've been kind of screwing around, but the final week of the regular season and then presumably the AAC championship game, I think Fritz will have his guys like dialed in for these two specific games to really play their best.
All right, 2 more. Kentucky is a 7-point underdog at Louisville. Louisville win this game, they'll probably be a top 10 team going into the ACC championship game. Kentucky's look pretty bad, and they're kind of one that we said earlier in the year that Florida win was a little overhyped. They have not been very good since then. What do you guys got here? Do you think Louisville just runs away with it?
Yeah, I think Louisville covers here. Yeah, this has been one of the like during the Mark Stoops era, this is probably like one of his weaker teams since he's like really gotten Kentucky to a consistent 8-9 win tier. Like, this is definitely like a step down. Louisville's been rolling with Jeff Brom. Jack Plummer's been great. Yeah, I have the Plus, this game is in Louisville, so yeah, I have them covering here.
Yeah, and I think Braun being an alum, like if he treats these things like Georgia's alum coach Kirby treats every rivalry game, they'll probably try to lay it on. Steeg, Nathan, what do you think? Louisville just tries to lay it on and get ready for Florida State, or what do you think?
I realize Kentucky's won the last 4 matchups in this.
Kentucky's
a weird
bullied them a little bit, but Louisville seems a little tougher this year.
Louisville has like a natural coach now, so that will probably help.
Yeah.
That helps them a lot. Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about Nathan's dead. He was so floored by Louisville having a coach. Louisville. No need to beat around the bush on this one. Kentucky's just not playing as good right now this year.
In the last game, we talk about weird games. We talk about rivalry games. We'll talk about the USF game on Pod by the Bay and other areas. But the Iron Bowl. Auburn lost at home to the fighting Jerry Kills in New Mexico State and Diego Pavia last week. Were they saving up their points in defense for this Alabama game, or is it just going to be an absolute beatdown? Is it going to get weird like it always seems to do in Jordan-Hare?
No. Hugh Freeze is a fraud. Hugh Freeze is a fraudster. Like Auburn Jesus isn't going to save this Auburn team with freaking Payton Thorne as the quarterback. No, like the only question is when does Nick Saban decide to call off the dogs here? Like that? No, it's Alabama.
Yeah, I think I don't. I mean, I guess if you're buying really low on Auburn, this would be the week. But man, like, I don't think so. Nathan, Steve, any thoughts on the Iron Bowl? It seems like it, right? Like, it happens every now and then. Alabama just goes in there and rolls them. Steeg, Auburn has any chance?
Just going to throw this out there. The largest victory in Iron Bowl history. Alabama won 55-0 in 1948. Something.
Will Nick go for the record on his possible way out there?
I mean, all he has to do at that point is just kick an extra point if he can get there.
He might go for it. So, all right. And that's another week of the Blog Boy Roundtable. If you like our picks, if you don't like them, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. We'll be back next week, I guess, to talk conference championship games to kind of finally start putting together the playoff puzzle. But until then, thank you for watching.